Friday. Thank you for tuning in to the Gardener's Corner program, a Friday feature here on TV Channel 10, located on Charter Communications Channel 191, and also on WKRX 96.7 FM. My name is Rob Hall. We're glad to have you tuned in to the Gardener's Corner program, brought to you today by T.G. Brooks Company and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, Spread and Dip. Our guest today is Mr. Gary Cross.
Good morning.
Gary actually serves as the crops agent for the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service for Person and Granville counties. You know, the motto of the Cooperative Extension Service is empowering people, providing solutions. And I would like to pass some information along to you. This is a pre-recorded edition of the Gardener's Corner program. Gary was actually tied up on Friday, so we came in a day early to pre-record this show, and we have got a few things that we'll be telling you about coming up in the show today. Points of interest.
You betcha, points of interest, things that are going on in Extension, and may even have a special guest today from what I understand. Is that true?
Well, that's what I am hearing. I guess we just have to kind of wait and see what happens. So, but anyway, Gary, of course, you know, you being the crop agent, you normally deal with corn, tobacco, soybeans. The list just continues on. But I understand that you have been kind of helping out, getting some letters sent out, trying to get some of the workers in for what seems to be an early strawberry crop.
Yeah, we've got, you know, we had a very warm February, Rob. You know that. You held your horse day, your horse clinic out there. It's warm weekend that weekend. That was in February. We've had several warm weekends in February where that caused strawberries to bloom, and they just keep blooming. And the whole issue is it's between 40 and 45 days, maybe shorter than that, according to what the temperatures are, I guess, before they bloom. So if they normally bloom about this time of the year, maybe a little bit later. Instead, they started blooming 2 to 3 weeks ago. So I had to write letters to be able to get laborers in relation to being able to pick the strawberries.
Right.
Because you know, they were told that they were going to have their pickers in the normal time, but the normal time's been moved up between 2 and 3 weeks for a lot of strawberry pickers. So the association had letters, folks like myself write letters for the need for the labor to come in early. So you know, that's kind of a tough issue because they've had some really warm days and then extraordinarily cold nights, so they're having to irrigate, you know, be able to, or cover them up, whichever what suits them, and be able to try and save whatever they've got out there. So we've had really weird, I don't want to say weird, I guess, but kind of offbeat issues in relation to the strawberries. And from what I understand, Rob, and that may have been you that told me, this is one of the warmest Februaries in record in North Carolina.
Well, that's what I have been told. Of course, they say that, you know, it's not uncommon to have a warm February, but it was, you know, a little bit warmer. And, you know, we started out in March and we've had some warm weather, and they're actually calling, you know, over the weekend, a chance of some inclement weather and colder temperatures, and on into next week, it's supposed to be, you know, some pretty cold nights. And Gary, I wanted to ask, as far as what you have been hearing, you know, just about a week ago, we had gotten down to 21 degrees.
Yeah.
Have you heard anybody say anything about whether it has dramatically affected the strawberry crops in this area?
I think probably more than anything, Rob, it's affecting that blooming issue, and I haven't heard if anybody's lost any. You probably won't know that till you start picking overall. Of course, if you kill the flowers, that's going to kill the yield in that relation. But the whole issue, I've been talking to farmers on wheat. I've been concerned about wheat for 2 or 3 weeks because we keep, like today, it's going to get 70, 75. Well, that plant's going to come out of dormancy, and then it'll get cold and it'll freeze again. Well, as that growing point gets further and further out of ground, if it's underground or at ground level, a lot of times it won't be damaged by freeze. But when you get it up there in the boot of the plant or higher in that plant, and you have a hard freeze, then you really get a lot of damage in wheat. So I'm concerned in that capacity because this has been strange weather and weather patterns for crops and for ornamentals. And I'm glad we hadn't had an ice storm or anything like that. We could still snow, Rob. You've seen it snow in March here before.
Yeah, well.
I watched whole West Texas get froze out in mid-April out on the high plains of Texas, and we had a lot of wheat damage. And I'd like to mention another thing. There's been a lot of wildfires out west, Rob, especially back where I used to work, back in the Hale County, West Texas area. A lot of it's on the Oklahoma and Texas border, but they've been having them really bad out there. So your thoughts and prayers need to be with some of those folks. They're losing cattle in place because these things are moving so swift.
Yeah.
They can't get the animals out of there, and that's been a problem. And it's dry here also. And I saw a weather statement yesterday about burning. Again on there. I mean, we've been having these little rains, but by 10 o'clock or noon, it's dried off, and it's very dry out here, and I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about going into tobacco season, as dry as it is, which that may not be as bad because you can irrigate, but some of these other crops that you got to have as dry as it is, that's a problem. And another negative too, when it freezes and it's very dry, that doesn't help because usually your plant's already under stress because of the dry weather, so that makes it weaker, and a lot of times they'll have a harder time recovering because of that. And we discovered that in wheat in West Texas from the standpoint of how dry it was, and then the damage versus the irrigated wheat wasn't as bad because it wasn't under as much stress.
Right.
So, and strawberries and other things will do the same things. That most people irrigate their strawberries, so that's not a 3 acres of strawberries, a huge area of strawberries. So that's a good thing to be able to, if you can get out there and cover them up and keep an eye on what's going on.
Well, Gary, you're right. It has been really dry, and I think it's talking about the month of February. It was one of the dry Februaries that we've had in a long time, and with the rain, a lot of people seem to think that when it's cool and colder weather, that water is not as needed for plants and trees and things, but they need water as much in the wintertime as they do the summer. And maybe I shouldn't say as much, but one thing about with the summertime, when it's hot and humid, the moisture will just evaporate, right, very rapidly. In the wintertime, with not having much rain and all, when these plants, as you said, they are already suffering, say maybe from cold weather, and then when you add it being dry to it, it's a double whammy, so to speak. But I'm kind of really concerned about a lot of things, the fruit trees, and if I'm not mistaken, Carl Cantalupi has told us in the past, depending on what fruit it is, can handle, different degrees of coldness better than others. And I'm thinking that he has said in the past that apples were one that could stand, a little few more colder degrees than say peaches and or strawberries.
That's correct.
But I just kind of, hope for the best for, the reason of it's a lot of strawberry growers in this area. That is their lifeblood, how they make a portion of their living.
Yeah, a lot of people grow strawberries and tobacco, and they use the help to do the strawberries and tobacco both, the hired labor and the H-2A workers to be able to do that. So
they get into the strawberries, and while they're in the strawberries, they're in tobacco.
Right. There's quite a few that do that.
Yeah. Now, Gary, you was talking about you had to write some letters and things, and now pretty much what does is it a problem bringing in the H2 workers early?
No, I think it's just an issue. The grower associations are the ones who are doing this. We just wrote the letters to the grower associations, and they'll go to the Department of Labor or whoever they have to mitigate with to be able to, because usually what you do is you say, I'm bringing so many workers in at this time of the year, and that's what you agree to do because, they're coming out of Mexico, and that's how you do it. Now, if you want to do something that's a little bit different, you have to go back, and, it's paperwork like anything. You and I have both been through paperwork, and it's one of those issues you've got to, see if you can be able to attain those folks because of the emergency you're having.
Yeah. Well, now, Gary, kind of moving along, and we'll touch a little bit more on the cold weather and the effects that it could have, in our area. You have got a meeting coming up in the very near future about malt barley.
Yes. On April 21st at the Umstead Farm, which is south of Stem and
on
north
Old 75?
On Old 70. You know this area, but you traveled there with the old Pepsi trucks, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I gave an advertisement.
There you go.
I apologize. But the issue is, it's on Old 75, and we'll have signs for you to be able to get down there. And if you need a GPS point, we can provide that also. But we've got a lot of different things in this plot. We've got different nitrogen rates being used for wheat in no-till study going on. We've got different nitrogen rates for 2 different types of barleys to set a nitrogen standard for the state of North Carolina. The Department of Ag is involved with that. We have replicated malt barley plots planted all over the state, Mills River, Salisbury, and Butner, to see how some of these varieties will be doing. A lot of the varieties we have, excluding thoroughbred, which is bred here, Virginia, North Carolina partnership, we have a lot of them that come from the west. So you're taking a product, Rob, from the west and bringing it east with all the different issues that you have in the east: humidity, a lot more disease, different temperatures. Out west it's dry air. Normally everything's irrigated. Very little disease. You can raise, 120, 130 bushel barley easy out there. So, and we need to test to see what's going on and what's doing well. So, and I think there's going to be maybe a fungicide trial in there a little bit later. We may not get it done by the 21st, but if we do, that'll be a positive issue to look at also. I've got a strip plot on weed in it. So it's well worth, if you're thinking about doing malt barley and you want to look at different rates of nitrogen on wheat, especially no-till, and that's how most people plant wheat here, is no-till right after soybeans or whatever, after tobacco, after they shredded their tobacco in the field. The issue is come by and see us. It'll start at 10 o'clock and go to noon. You can call the Granville or Person County offices to make a reservation, and we're hoping to have a pretty good turnout down there. And we've got people talking from the malting industry. We've got people talking from the craft brewing industry. So we've got those two folks talking in that capacity also. And I'm going to make a motion to have you come down, Rob, to the meeting. You would probably enjoy it.
Well, let's see here. You say that will be April 21st. That will be a Friday.
Friday. You're doing the radio program that day, I know, but
well, maybe we could work something out. Well, Gary, now this malt barley, it's used in
craft breweries.
in breweries.
That's correct.
And it's not necessarily made for feed, I guess, for livestock.
You can use it for feed, but what you want to do, the value is, $2 to $3 a bushel versus, 9 to 10 in relation to if you're malting it.
Okay.
So, the issue they like in malt barley is we have two different types. We have the 6-row barley, which you're talking about on feed. You know a lot about feed, Rob. You fed lots of different animals. Understand that. And you have also the 2-row barley, which is what they really want.
Right.
It creates a plump wheat seed form to be able to malt better. It's higher in protein normally and other issues. So that's something that's going to be talked about. And they want to look at different varieties. We've struggled in this state. We've had a couple that's been pretty good. Endeavor's been a tough as one that the malters really like, but it's really hard for farmers to produce because of disease issues. So we're trying to get, sometimes you get the cart way before the horse and a lot of things, and we're trying to back that cart up and hook it up to the horse and be able to do some things that are positive. But I was told that the craft brewing industry may grow double to triple in the next 10 to 15 years. So there's opportunity, I think, out here to grow this. And there's, I don't know how many, several different groups out of Germany have moved over here and are establishing breweries or malting groups to be able to. So you have it, you raise it on the farm, and you take it. The malters will buy it, they malt it, and then that goes to the brewery.
So keep in mind at the Umstead Farm on 075 down in Butner, coming up on April the 21st. That will be a Friday. The meeting on malt barley will be from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. For more information, you can call the Granville County Cooperative Extension Service Office, 919-603-1350, or the Person County Cooperative Extension Service Office at 336-599-1195. And yeah, Gary, we'll see. Maybe we could do the Gardener's Corner program from down there and talk to some different people. So
you would have a great group of people to talk to because you're looking at some of the best people in NC State and the industry, being here. So it would be fun. It'd be fun to look at. You can see a lot of differences in what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And the whole issue is it'd be a fun day for people to come out and check it out. If you have an interest in it, come on by.
Yeah,
it's free. We don't charge. Maybe afterwards we can go to Rob's and ride some of the horses.
Hey, I think we have a special guest coming to us by way of the telephones. Good morning. Hello. How are you today?
All right, Rob. Good.
Can you hear me, Mr. Cantalupe?
It's very low right now.
Okay. Let us see if we can.
There you go. You pop back.
Okay. I was going to say maybe we could make an adjustment or something. But anyway, for those of you that are tuned in,
back and forth.
Mr. Carl Cantalupe is with us here on the Gardener's Corner program. And Carl is actually making his way in to North Carolina. Carl, stand by just a minute and let me get Kilby's attention. Kilby, we're kind of fading in and out with Carl. Is it anything that you suggest that we could do? Is that any better, Carl? Carl?
Yes.
Is that any better?
Can't hear you. I can hear you when you come back on.
Okay.
I can't hear you if you're not talking directly to me.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Carl?
Can you hear?
Yes,
You can hear Gary.
Did you bring
Yeah, I
Ruth?
heard Gary.
Did you bring me some goodies, Carl?
Are you there, Carl?
I'll have to say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Kilby, for some reason, we're having the news playing in the background, and I think that's maybe causing some problems or whatever. But anyway, Carl, just bear with us if you can, and
Okay.
maybe we can do this a different way. So hold on just a minute, okay?
All right. Uh-huh.
All right, can you hear me now, Carl? Okay, well, anyway, we're going to do something different. Carl, I'm actually having to talk to you through the receiver of the telephone, and so I'm going to try to relay what you say to our listeners, and Kilby's going to be checking to see if we can get the little telephone box cleared up. But anyway, to our listeners, Carl is actually making his way in to the area. He's going to be making a presentation at the Cooperative Extension Service, and that will be on Friday. And so we're, looking forward to Carl coming back in town. Carl, exactly what are you going to be doing? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, Carl, I'm going to put you on hold just a minute, so bear with us, okay? All right, stand by. Anyway, Carl was saying that he's going to be talking to some extension agents about how to keep records and do some different statistics and things on how to keep up with, the results and things of crops that they may be
He's good
studying,
at it.
and he really is.
He's good at it.
Kilby, let's go ahead and get a word on right now for T.G. Brooks Company, and we'll see if we can get something worked out on it, okay?
Here's a March 2017 message from T.G. Brooks Company as we head into springtime. T.G. Brooks Company in Timberlake reminds everyone that you still have time for a weed-free, healthy lawn by applying pre-emergent weed control, both granular or with slow-release fertilizer. This will provide up to 8 months of weed control on lawn weeds that make your lawn hard to manage. Transform your lackluster lawn into a lush and beautiful landscape. They have plenty of fertilizer, lime, and weed control to get you off to a proper spring start. And so that you have the prettiest lawn and be the envy of the neighborhood, they have hardwood and dyed mulches by the scoop and pine mulch by the bag. They have all of the most popular lawn and garden chemicals like insecticides, herbicides, and they have plenty of your soils like topsoil, bulk planting soil, potting soil, cow manure, and they have pine needles. They have for sale or rent spreaders, power pluggers, and plenty of tools to do the work, plus nice wheelbarrows, and to further beautify, they have stepping stones and wall stones. Plenty of friendly advice, too. Speaking of gardens, they now have for you onion sets, seed potatoes, and soon broccoli and cabbage. When it comes to your home or property, whether you are a homeowner or a commercial landscaper, T.G. Brooks Company serves everybody. Remember to finish your workday with delicious hand-cut ribeye steak at T.G. Brooks Company. They do it every day, serving you since 1936. Phone 364-2428 anytime.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program, and we actually have Mr. Carl Cantalupi, who is joining us by telephone. We're having a few technical issues. We're working on them, so hopefully we'll have Carl on in just a few minutes. But for those of you that are maybe new to the program, Carl is a retired cooperative extension service agent. He was the horticultural agent for a great number of years, and Carl was the very first agent ever on the Gardener's Corner program. And so anyway, Carl retired back in September, and he calls in and checks with us from time to time. So we're going to give it another try. Carl? Carl? Hello? Hello? Carl? We've tried a few things, but for some reason, it's just not working out today. I was wondering, you know the little phone box that we use on the table to put the callers on air? You remember how sometimes if the cord wasn't exactly right, it wouldn't work? Well, we've tried that trick, but it's just not working out. So we're going to try to convey it to our listeners. Gary and I
have a question.
Started out talking just a minute ago about strawberries, and anyway, and then Gary has a question. But what we were talking about, Carl, about a week ago, the temperature got down to about 21 degrees here in Roxborough, and we were just wondering about, the strawberry crops. Even though a lot of the strawberry growers, done the best that they could to try to protect the crops, how long will it be before you can tell if it was any damage done due to the cold weather? Right. Well, now, when the blossom does turn, brown or black, is on strawberries, is it the same on cases of fruit trees? Does the blossoms seem to turn bad? So it would be about the same way then. Well, should people, if they do see some blooms that are turning brown or black, is it anything that they should do right now, or should they hold all off and just see what happens? Right. It creates a heat, yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, you have to continue. Okay, let me relay to the listeners what you were saying. Carl was saying that if you do notice some brown or black blooms on your fruit trees, if you want to go ahead and prune those off, you can, or let Mother Nature take its course and they will fall off. And he was also saying about strawberry farmers using irrigation as a way to keep the more or less strawberries from getting too cold. He said, you could also do that. Local gardeners could do that as well, meaning that once you start the irrigation, you have to continue it, because what happens is when the water is freezing on the plant, it creates some heat, and that sometimes will help ensure, no damage to the plant. But anyway, Carl, Gary has a question for you, and so Gary, go ahead and answer ask a question, and I will relay it to him.
My question is, we've had a very warm February, and we've had a lot of blooming on strawberries. How long does it take strawberries to make strawberries to pick from blooming?
Okay. What Gary was saying, in the month of February, we had strawberries to start blooming, and his question is, from the time of bloom set, about what amount of time would it take for strawberries to, be ready to pick and develop? That's right. About 30 days. So we're real early then.
Yes.
Yeah, because typically, somewhere latter part of April, first part of May, on into May, it's prime strawberry season. But it looks like we're going to be, late March, early April, and I just hope the weather holds out. And Carl, we're actually, having a little bit of snow in the forecast over the weekend and on into next week. It's supposed to get pretty cold at night, and so we're a long ways from being out of the woods, and we have I think so too, Carl. I think you're right about it's going to create some havoc, but we have been doing our best to preach and pass along that people need to don't be so antsy about getting out and planning this and that, because we tell them to bear in mind, in the Piedmont, as you have taught me over the years, up until April the 15th and on into the 1st of May, we still have somewhere around a 50% chance of frost. So it's just one of those things. Well, Carl, look, I'm going to get off the phone with you, and I apologize that we was having technical problems, but I hope you and Ruth are doing well, and you've got a pretty day to be traveling in.
One more question. Did you bring me any goodies?
Oh, really? Wow. Well, good gracious. Well, look, Gary has one other thing he wanted me to convey to you. He says that he hopes that you did not forget his care package in Pennsylvania. He said he hopes that was the first thing that you loaded in the car when you started making your way to North Carolina early this morning. He said he remembered you, Gary, so no worries. I'm not going to tell him what it is. That we're going to let that be a surprise. But anyway, Carl, I'll call you later today. But hello to Ruth, and y'all have a safe trip, and looking forward to see you when y'all get in town. Thank you, Carl. All right, bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies, but we had spoken with Carl last week, and anyway, the reason that we decided to pre-record the program today, Gary is going to be taking part in the more or less class that Carl is going to be talking about tomorrow. And Gary, Carl had told me, and you told me, that he's been, working with you to help you how to keep up statistics and things like that.
He's very good at it.
But my apologies that we was having a little bit of phone issues here, and some days, Gary, things just don't seem to go quite as smooth as others.
We have those days, all of us do.
We sure do. But anyway, our guest today on the Gardener's Corner program is Gary Cross, who is the crops agent. Gary, now something that you was talking about, wheat. Mm-hmm. You say that if the wheat is down close to the ground, the cold weather doesn't seem to affect it near as much.
If that growing point is below ground or right at ground level, it will not affect, the freeze damage will not affect it. But since we had a warm February, a lot of the wheat's that tall now,
yeah.
So that growing point's getting further and further. And it, you know, if you fertilized it well, if you've had a little bit of moisture, which we did yesterday, some people got moisture, some didn't. If you've taken care of it, managed it, you'll get through. You may get zapped by the cold, but you may get through it, have maybe a reduced yield, but still have a weak crop. But if you have plants under a lot of stress, which Carl was talking about earlier, you will have struggles, because if you've not managed it, if you've not put on the fertility, if you've not done the work that needs to be done with it, that plant's under stress and will have a harder time getting through that freeze damage.
Right. Well, you know, it is, you know, as nice of weather as we have had, you know, it looks like we may be paying back a little bit in the way of some cold weather, and it may do some damage to the crops. And I certainly hope it doesn't work out that way. But, you know, for those of you that do have, you know, ornamental plants, just kind of be prepared. You know, I think Friday night on through the middle part of next week, you need to go ahead and make sure of covering your plants. And if you have, you know, any fruit trees or anything, it's pretty much, you know, impossible to cover those up. But if you did want to just set up a little, you know, water sprinkler and have it to where it will continuously, you know, spray on those trees, you know, you could try that. I don't think it's going to be as cold this upcoming week as it was last week. As I'd said earlier, I think we had a morning low of 21 degrees hit the radio station a week ago today. And then for next week, I'm thinking somewhere, you know, lows maybe around, you know, 24, 25 degrees, which once it gets that cold, Gary, I wonder, does 3 degrees make a lot of difference?
It can make some difference. It can make difference if the wind's blowing. It can make a difference if you're in a lower point of a field. You're liable to get hit a little worse than something on top of the hill. Sometimes on top of the hill and get hit according to what direction that the cold air is coming from. But you've got to be, you know, if the wind's blowing, and sometimes that can help to some extent. But the issue is if it's just a clear night and you have a hard freeze, that's the worst thing to be on plants. So
yeah, that is one thing. When it is a little bit cloudy, you know, that kind of keeps temperatures from dipping so low. And if we do have a little bit of wind, that also can help from it being so cold. But on a clear, cold night, it can get, you know, some damaging temperatures. It sure can. We're going to get a word on for one of our sponsors, Our Pride Foods.
Oh, good stuff.
Makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip.
That's fantastic stuff.
It really is. I had some just a few days ago, and a lot of times, you know, we will have it as a part of our meal. Sometimes we'll just have it as a little snack. Whether you're using it as a spread or a dip, you can't go wrong.
Was you the one telling me you had that with chicken salad or?
Yeah, we'll have pimento cheese and chicken salad a lot of times.
That sounds good.
And Kilby has the Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese with eggs.
Ooh, that sounds good too.
So I hadn't tried that yet, but we're going to have to give it a try sometime. But let's get a word on for Our Pride Foods.
Goodness grows in North Carolina, and Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip is made locally in Roxborough. Pick up some for yourself and enjoy. You can get the Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese regular, or for extra flavor, try the jalapeno added. Get some for yourself at T.G. Brooks Company, Supply Line Discounts, North Main IGA, Hurdle Mills Market and Butcher Shop, Twins Meat Market, Food Line, or just Save. Or if you're in Uptown Roxborough and get the hankering for some Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, you can enjoy it at Cole's Pharmacy, Trish's Espresso, and Snappy's Cafe. That's Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Whether you're having it for a meal or a snack, it's good.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Rob Hall here with you. We appreciate you tuning in. Our guest today is Gary Cross. Gary is a crop agent for Person and Granville counties of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Now, again, Gary, we'll make mention that coming up on Friday, April 21st, at the Umstead Farm on Old 75 in Butner, it's going to be a malt barley meeting. And you all have some different test plots down there, and you're going to have some representatives from the malt industry and craft breweries.
Yep.
So it sounds like it would be an interesting meeting for any farmers that is trying to maybe diversify, to find other ways to put money in your pocket. This may be something. Gary, just a quick question. Now, is someone typically that may be a malt barley farmer, I mean, do they have like just buku of acreage, or is a lot of them small?
A lot of it's contracted, smaller acres for the malters, and and it's treated a little different than wheat on population. It's treated a little different on nitrogen. Just north of us here in Danville, there's a very good seedsman up there, and he tells me he puts very little on in the fall, but he does several applications, maybe a little bit some in the winter and a couple of times in the spring, and that seems to help him out. Plus, he uses fungicides to be able to do that, and it's a struggle like growing wheat. You're going through 2 or 3 different temperature changes, unlike corn and soybeans and tobacco that really don't go through a lot of temperature changes during the summer. I mean, it may get hot, then it gets hotter. Yeah. But in relation to wheat and barley, you go from warm temperatures when you plant it to very cold to warm again like in February, and then cold. We're starting out to have a little bit of a cold March, even though it's a nice day today. The issue is, it goes through a lot of stress, so you have to manage it very carefully. And quality is everything in barley. If you have shriveled seed, shriveled issues in relation to the seed size, it's not a plump grain. It's not going to malt very well, and it's not going to make a very good product for those who are in the brewing industry. So you need to be able to manage it well and select varieties. That's one of the things we're really trying to do, is look at varieties that might be a better fit for North Carolina, that can be raised without economic loss to the farmer and without less quality for the malters and the brewers, because they need quality. So we're trying to find those varieties that do that. And there's lots of different varieties. There's privately held varieties of malt barley. There's some that are called the European varieties that some have been tested over here. I think we have a new one coming out of NC State, USDA and NC State here in the next year or two that seems to be very, very good. So right now we're looking at a lot of the products that are normally used in the brewing industry out west, and some here in the east, but mainly out west for the larger groups that brew out there and malt out there. So we're trying to bring some of that here to look at it to see if we can do it, because there is a demand for malt barley in this state. Will be a larger demand in the future. And if you want to diversify and look at how you can maybe make your farm a little bit more profitable, come to this meeting and talk to some of these folks, because they've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for a long time, and you'll find that maybe this is for you. It may not be for you, but it may be for you to be able to diversify some of the issues you're working on.
Well, now, Gary, from your knowledge of the malt barley, is it any kind of special equipment that is needed?
Not really. You use a normal combine that you'd use for wheat. You might have to look at your concave speeds and everything to make sure you don't shatter it, or you have a lot of splits in it, or what we call halves, because you damage that affects quality. And you don't want to harvest it when it's sprouting, because if it sprouts in the head, it's too late. So you got to manage it like you would wheat in relation to harvest, and be able to create the best quality crop that you can put through. You don't want a lot of straw in there, because straw does not brew, only the malt barley brews. So you want to be able to clean out a lot of your trash and stuff. So you need to have your combine set to where you can blow a lot of your trash out and just have good grain and very little trash in it. And if you do have a small seed cleaner, it might not be a bad idea, or one of these deals that you put it through that's a tumbler that'll take a lot of that straw and trash out. So you want to be able to do that. You know, if it's not a good quality crop, the only option you have is to feed it. So you're going to have to, if you cannot raise a good quality crop, you're going to have to find somebody that'll buy the barley. Most elevators don't buy it, but you know, there'll be hog farmers, there will be cattle farmers that will buy it and use it as feed source.
Well, that's some good information. Now, Gary, we hear, you know, these breweries. You even see the commercials on TV with a lot of the, you know, specialty beers. They're big on hops.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this I guess, mushrooming of all of these microbreweries with craft beers and different ones coming up with different flavors of beer is still certain ingredients that is more or less has to be had in making, you know, these beers.
Right.
And malt barley is one of them. Malt barley is one of them, correct?
Correct, and hops is. And the issue that they are really wanting to push in North Carolina, those that are doing the craft breweries here, is they want to be able to have a picture of Rob Hall raising the malt barley, so-and-so raising the hops, and be able to show their customers that, you know, not only is it locally grown, but these are people who are growing it for us. That's a big connection for them out here, because a lot of them have their own restaurants, and some of them, you know, some of them are in restaurants, some of them are in, one of them's in a ballpark, I think, here in with the Durham Bulls. You know, they're all different types of places in North Carolina, and there's people just have the breweries themselves. But the issue is, Rob, on hops, you got to be careful, because that's a tough issue to raise hops in our part of the country. You got to have a little altitude and day length, and Carl could tell you that they have something that's called day neutral, which means that the hops don't ripen as well and they don't mature as well as they would if they were up in the mountains over by Asheville.
Yeah.
So those are some of the types of issues you got to be careful. You don't want to just run in. You need to read, you need to study and see what will do well and what won't do well in your area.
So again, if you're just maybe late tuning in, we've been talking with Gary Cross with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, where he serves as a crop agent. Coming up on Friday, April 21st, at the Umstead Farm in Butner on Old 75, they're going to be having a malt barley meeting, and they're going to have representatives there from some microbreweries and some malters there to be talking. And if you're maybe wanting to get more information about becoming a malt barley farmer, you can contact Gary Cross by calling the Granville County office, 919-603-1350, or you can call the Person County office, 336-599-1195. And go ahead and why don't you make it your plans to attend that meeting on Friday, April 21st, 10 a.m. until 12 noon. So, Gary, I kind of wish it would have worked out to where we could have talked to Mr. Cantalupi a little bit more to get into that retired mind of knowledge of his. But just sometimes things doesn't always work out.
That's understandable.
You know, things are always haywire, but sometimes they are extremely haywire with equipment. But anyway, we appreciate you all tuning in to this recorded edition of the Gardens Corner program, brought to you by T.G. Brooks Company and Our Pride Foods. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you coming out and sharing some information with us. Appreciate Kilby for trying to get our little problems worked out. A lot of times between him and Conrad, they get them all worked out, but we just had one little glitch that we just couldn't get resolved, and probably about 5 minutes after the show, we'll figure out what the problem was. Thank you for tuning in. I want to wish you and yours a happy and safe weekend, and thank you again for tuning in to the Gardeners Corner program.